like the emotion that I have inside of me to look across this room and see that once again we have packed Scarsdale Golf Club in this fight against childhood cancer. It's a unique situation, right? Because I think 65% of this room traveled in from out of town. I think we represent tonight in this room, if I calculate correctly, there's something like 12 different states with people who traveled to come here. And so, number one, we're eternally grateful for that, right? And it makes it very difficult when you have to try to cancel something or have a rain date. So the panic was starting to set in, and it's a long way of saying thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you for sitting here and being in this room. And for those of you who came this morning as well, it means the world to us. Thank you. So every time I get up here, I never really know what direction I want to go and what direction I should go. I made a new friend in the room tonight. I won't name names, but I made a new friend in the room tonight who pulled me aside. And he has had a similar experience with a child, and really pulled me aside to thank me for speaking about childhood cancer and for speaking about loss. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And it is difficult, and it is something that people don't talk about, and people don't talk about enough. And I know we've got a lot of folks in the room who have been here year after year, and I also know we do have quite a few new folks that are here for the first time. So welcome, and let me share the quick high level of what we are and why we do what we do. But this coming January marks 8 years, unbelievably, that we lost our beautiful 10-year-old son, Paulie. And Paulie was diagnosed out of the blue as a healthy 10-year-old boy with a rare cancer called rhabdomyosarcoma. And like everybody in this room, probably, or most of you, I had never heard that word before. And it was a very rare, aggressive cancer that was in a very rare and aggressive place in his body, making it nearly impossible for them to operate. And they put Paulie on a regimen of what was supposed to be 54 weeks of chemo and radiation, and that tumor continued to grow and grow and grow from 3 centimeters to 33 centimeters, and it didn't care what medicines were thrown at it. And it wasn't until we were thrown into this world of having to face a cancer diagnosis, right, that we started diving in and doing some research to find out that only 4% of cancer research funding goes to support children. And I don't know how many of you guys in this room have kids, but that's damn sure not enough. And our kids are worth way more than 4%. And I know this guy once. But I'm here to tell you that we're making a difference, and we are making an impact. And as I said to the group early this morning, the PaulieStrong Foundation is not me, it's not our family and friends, it's all of you guys in this room. It's everybody who registered to be here, who showed up to dinner, whose name is on this sign, who donated, supported, and joined the fight. For those of you who have just come up to give us a hug over the years, that means everything. And we collectively are the PaulieStrong Foundation.
You're here.
So I know my wife in the back is looking at me like, speed it up. I know, I get the look. If ever, any of you in the room with Greek wives know. So I'll speed it up by saying I got a couple of things that I want to do while we're out here this morning, or this evening. So when Paulie passed away, it was the Father's Day prior to that, he picked out a big green egg grill for me for Father's Day. And this is a nice story, but it's also kind of a shameless plug. So I started cooking on that big green egg on a regular basis because for some strange reason for me, I found it to be therapeutic to cook on this gift that my son had picked out for me for Father's Day, and it strangely made me feel closer to him. Juliet was 5 years old at the time, and Juliet found herself outside cooking with me on a regular basis, and I think, it helped to bring our family together. Edie doesn't enjoy cooking, but she enjoys most of what we make on a regular basis, right? So I say that because what it did for me is we started this Instagram account. And I know all of you have phones in your room, so this is where the shameless plug comes in, right? We have about 3,000 plus followers on the PaulieStrong Foundation Instagram account. So I urge you to follow. But I've got about 40,000 followers, or close to, on the Big Paul on the Grill Instagram account. And I was mentioning to somebody here today, that platform gives me a way to help spread awareness for the cause and for the foundation. So when you see me cook on this Big Paul on the Grill Instagram account, usually I'm outfitted with some sort of PaulieStrong gear, or the grills are outfitted with the big green eggs, the temp gauges. And so I post a lot of content on there in regards to the foundation, and it becomes a little disheartening because sometimes I post that content, especially around this time of year promoting the event, and with every PaulieStrong related post I put up there, I can guarantee that 100 followers are leaving the account that day. And I used to take it personal or get concerned as to why that would happen, but I get it. It's not why people are there. People are uncomfortable talking about children with cancer. And I'm damn sure not going to shut my mouth about it. I'm going to sit on the soapbox and scream about it for as long as I can. And unless you've been in that situation, you don't realize how much fight you have in you. But we're going to continue to pick up the fight for this guy who we lost, who we miss so much. And so part of that cooking world or barbecue world is also why you see so many things in the auction that are barbecue related. So get your bids in because there's like 40 minutes left. But it's also led me to make a lot of new friends and relationships. And one of those gentlemen, who I became friends with over the last couple of years, owns a hardware store about an hour from here in Connecticut. And he decided to put on what's known in the barbecue or Big Green Egg community an egg fest, right? And that's where we have cooks come up and just start cooking a bunch of stuff on grills, and people come and taste, and it's basically a big food festival party. And this was an event where he invited us to come up and participate, and really surprised me a month or so in advance to let me know that the money raised during this egg fest was going to go to the PaulieStrong Foundation.
Yeah.
I guess after 7 years of consecutive beautiful sunny days, the luck was starting to wear off, and I should have known, because this egg fest, if you thought the rain this morning was crazy, this was a monsoon for 7 straight hours, but we had hundreds of people come through. And I want to bring Charlie up. Charlie, come on for a second. From Chatfield True Value Hardware to make a check presentation. And my representatives from Sloan Kettering, Stephanie and Dr. Ortiz in the room. Come up in the back. So this, egg festival in the parking lot of a hardware store in Connecticut in the middle of a monsoon, okay, raised, I'll let him hold it because he did all the work here, $13,000. Yeah, and Mark, if you don't mind getting a photo, I'd love to have him pass it on to the folks at Sloan Kettering.
All right.
If you've ever taken a picture of Mark, you know there's a lot of directions. Love you, Doc. Thank you, Sarah. You and your team work together. Thank you. All right. So, guys, the auction is still going. I want to give you guys a quick update because I've been looking at this like a new toy, this new ticker app that I've got on my phone that kind of tells me where we are. We continue to set records with this event, and I just want to look at it in real time. Right now, with what's going to be about 20 minutes to go before the auction closes, with all the sponsorship money and everything that everyone has donated to be here tonight, tonight's grand total is $248,175. And every year, my wife and I have a deep discussion following this event about the fact that can we continue to put this on and do this again, and it's a lot of emotional and physical stress. I mean, when you talk about milestones, you know, when you lose a child, you count every single one of those missed milestones, right? And Paulie was supposed to start his freshman year in college this year. And, you know, we shouldn't be in this room at all. But that $250,000 is going to go make an impact in the fight against childhood cancer. And the next gentleman that I'm going to bring up is going to share a little bit about not only what we have done to date, but kind of what they're working on in the labs. And I wanted him to share a little bit about really what that impact means for the future children who are going to be diagnosed with this terrible disease. Because childhood cancer, believe it or not, is the #1 disease-related death in children in this country. And it's foundations like PaulieStrong and the smaller foundations out there that help offset that only 4% of all cancer research funding goes to support children. So we're here to fill in that gap and help these doctors and scientists really find better, safer, more effective treatments for these kids and give them a chance to fight and give them a chance at life. So again, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being here today, for making an impact. And guys, we are going to one day rid the world of childhood cancer, and we will all be a big part of that. Thank you. Now I'd like to bring up Dr. Michael Ortiz, not only a doctor and researcher at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, but Dr. Ortiz was one of Paulie's doctors, and one of the first people that we met when we walked in the door at Sloan Kettering. And with a diagnosis that your child has cancer, I can't even put into words the emotions and just the pure chaos that goes on in your brain when you hear those words. And this is someone who held our hands through the entire process. I couldn't ask for a doctor who was more compassionate, more understanding, and knows the situation so well to be able to help our family navigate through this. And the work that he is doing at Sloan Kettering is going to save lives. It is going to change the world. So from the bottom of my heart, man, I love you. I am grateful for you. And I'd love you to come up and say a few words to the folks here. So Dr. Michael Ortiz.
Thank you, Paul. I'm not as eloquent of a speaker as Paul is, so I'm just going to pull this up real quick. So my name is Mike Ortiz, and I'm a pediatric oncologist at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York. I take care of all the kids in our hospital with kidney and liver and some rare tumors. And I'm a member of the sarcoma service, which is the team that treated Paulie. I've been fortunate enough to know Paul, Joanna, and the Jimenez family now for, I guess, 8 years. And so I've been invited to speak here before. And so I think some of you have heard about the transformative work that the PaulieStrong Foundation has done. A lot of the funds that the foundation supports goes towards generating laboratory models of childhood cancers that we then study and try to find new weaknesses in order to be able to advance new treatments for children with cancer. And that sounds great, talking about the science, and that's usually what I talk about. But I thought that today maybe I'd talk a little bit more about why this is important. And I decided to take a little bit of a different angle from what I previously talked about because of an experience that I had last month. So every few months, we take care of all the kids in the hospital. And this is something that I do pretty regularly, every few months. And usually it's something that I can deal with okay. But this time was different. In the span of a few hours, I had 2 children with cancers just like Paulie's, who died while I was in charge of them. I held their hands, I talked to their families, and there was nothing else that I could do other than to make them comfortable. We didn't have anything else that we had left. And they were incredible kids. One of them, who I knew actually very well, was actually the same age as Paulie. He was just diagnosed a few years later. And he actually went to one day of college. That was his goal, was to go to college, and he went to one day. And then he had to leave college. He had to leave because his cancer became so terrible that he could no longer bear to be there. And I hate that. And it was very frustrating to me to know this boy and to see what cancer took from him and from his family. And it was really frustrating because these kids did not want to stop treatment. It wasn't like they were done. We had nothing else to offer them to help. There was nothing else that I could give them that was going to make that cancer go away, to extend their lives, to give them the chance to be cured. And that's why this is so important. We need to find something better than chemotherapy and surgery and radiation. It's the same treatment we've been using for the last 40 years. And for adults, they have other treatments. There's plenty of therapies that work for adult cancers that are not those three things. But as Paul was saying, only 4% of all the federal funds go towards supporting childhood cancer. And that's because it's rare. And that's great. It's great that childhood cancer is rare. We're glad that it's rare. But it makes it very hard to get a drug company interested in supporting a clinical trial for something that's going to affect 20 kids. But if that's your kid, it really matters. So that's where a foundation like PaulieStrong is so important. It fills the gap that funding that doesn't exist. If we really want to try to move the needle forward, we have to be willing to have high-risk projects that grassroots foundations like this support. And the PaulieStrong Foundation has been doing this for actually a really long time. And as Paul just talked about, they've raised millions of dollars that have gone to move forward really promising ideas. I'm proud to say that one of the concepts that was supported by the PaulieStrong Foundation has led to a clinical trial that I just opened up in the last few weeks. That's going to offer a new treatment option to kids with several different solid tumors. It's going to be available at Memorial and several other large centers around the United States. So although we have a tremendous amount of work to do, I'm excited that we at least are starting to move the needle in advancing new therapies beyond chemotherapy, surgery, radiation. And this foundation in particular, foundations like this are essential to be able to make those changes. So I'm hopeful that in the future we'll be able to offer something better, because these kids absolutely deserve that. So I want to thank all of you guys for being here, for everyone who supported the PaulieStrong Foundation, both with these events as well as the support for this event. This is really important stuff, and unless you've met these kids and have a personal impact, it's hard for me to explain to you how important this is. But for me, it really matters, and that's why I do what I do. And I thank you guys for your support, the two of you especially, and we will continue the fight.